In your kit you will find a copper wreath ring and some rail wire. We will begin by attaching the rail wire to this point on the ring, like so. Unravel the rail wire, go around the inner circle and twist to secure, like so. Make sure that is nice and tight and won't go anywhere, because this is the foundation onto which your entire wreath will be based. Next, we take the moss and we can fluff it out a bit just to remove any sharp twigs and debris, but generally we will have done this for you before it goes into the bag. Now the aim is to make a nice tight fat sausage in moss all the way around the ring. This will stay nice and moist, and this is what will keep the foliage alive and your wreath ring looking healthy and lush throughout the season, right past Christmas. So I take it, I roll it into a nice tight sausage shape and I lay it on the first quarter of the copper base on the top. I then nice and tightly bind this on with rail wire, pulling it tight all the way around, but not so tight as to snap the wire. All the way around, nice and tight. It should feel nice and firm. Basically so you can't poke a finger through. And you take the next bit, again, roll it into a nice tight sausage shape and place that on the next quarter of the wreath ring and continue to bind as the first piece. I like to work in a clockwise direction, so as I bind, I'm turning the wreath around all the time. So, next piece, I'll add that on, and you continue with that all the way around, binding on until that's finished, and it looks like this. Now it doesn't have to be neat because you won't see this. If it's really jaggedy, you can trim it off with your scissors. But like I say, not too much. And you want to keep this nice and moist throughout the whole of the festive season. So you can go round another couple of times just to be secure, but don't cut it off at this stage. Next thing we're going to do, I will have cut to size nice pieces of spruce, nice pieces of bay, and also holly. If you want to add some interesting greenery from your gardens, please do so. Now, we like to make sure that the spruce is cut at an angle and this cut end goes on to the moss. That way it will stay fresh and keep drinking. So we shall now start adding the foliage. So I'm going to start by choosing 3 nice pieces of spruce for this. So 1, 2, 3. I will add 1 on the inside. My wire's here. I will add the next one on the top, and then I will add the next one on the outside. I like to give it a nice frond, and I like it to go all the way around. I tend to hold the spruce with my left hand and bind with my right. If your left hand may choose to go in the other direction. And then you fasten that on by binding it on. There we are. Next, you may want to add a different texture, for instance, a bit of bay. So I'm going to trim this down at an angle, lay it on top, nice piece of spruce on the outside, another bit of spruce to the inside, hold it with my left hand and bind with my right. Pull it on nice and tight, laying the foliage on top as we go. Now, it's very important that you go in the same direction all the way around the wreath. Do not start turning, because what you don't want to start doing is adding foliage behind. You always want to be adding the foliage on top. So next I'm going to go in with some spruce. Lay that on. I've gone for 2 pieces this time. Bind and twist. I'm just going to trim that end off. There we go. And then bind that on. Again, some of this rather delicious bay that you're getting in your kit all the way around. So on this wreath I am alternating bay and spruce. So the idea is you continue all the way around, and that will make you a lovely ring that looks something like this. There we are. So if you keep following the ring around, you will finish with a nice luscious ring that looks like this. So I have continued to add foliage in the same way all the way around up to this point. Now what we want to do is give the wreath continuous cover. So what I need to do here is add my final bit behind the first bit of foliage that I started with. So I will be lifting this up and adding the spruce and bay in behind. So I lift up the foliage, I add in my final section, I take my bind wire and I take it under the first section of foliage and over the new section, being careful not to pin any of our lovely frondy bits down, so they all stay nice and proud. And then we get a nice continuous foliage wreath all the way around. If you find some bits are a bit chubby, just move them out, move them around. It's all bound on, it should be fine. Now the next section is tying off your wreath. So the next thing we are going to do is tying off the wreath. So what we do is we take your reel wire, pull it nice and tight so none of the foliage comes loose. We take it through the foliage and then we turn the wreath over. Now where I've got the foliage here on the back, I'm just going to remove that because you don't want it to scratch your door. Now the idea here is the copper frame on which the wreath has been built will hold everything together. I'm going to leave a length of 20 centimetres approximately. Let the real wire fall away. Then the next thing I'm going to do is find the copper wire onto which we have built everything. It's just there. I'll hold it up to the camera. Just here. And then I'm going to stitch around about 3 times, pulling tight as I go. It's a little fiddly, this part. I think this is the trickiest part of the whole make, but it's worth taking time over because it'll make sure everything's held together nice and securely. And then the last couple, I'm going to take it back through the loop and pull tight. Once more, under the copper frame, out, knot it through the loop, pull it tight. And then going to trim this to about 2 inches long. I'm going to take this bit of wire, fold it over and push it back into the moss. The reason for that is we don't want to leave any bits of wire loose that could scratch your door or your table or your wall or wherever you choose to place your wreath. And there we go, one completed wreath. And the next thing we need to do now is decorate it. Now we've completed our wreath, it's looking nice and voluminous. I would, looking at this wreath, decide now where to put my ribbon. And I think I have, where I started and finished and tied off the wreath, a bit of a flatter area here. So that's where I'm going to pop my ribbon. Now, I've pre-wired a ribbon for you in the pack. It may come a little bit flat, so you'll want to re-zhuzh your ribbon. So I'm just going to fold this out. If you wanted to make the ribbon yourself, please do feel free to unravel it or pop in the comments section. I would like to make my own ribbon. And we'll just put the flat ribbon in for you. There we are. So I'm going to move the foliage back and find the moss. I'm going to take my 2 pieces of wire, poke them into the moss and straight out the other side. Turn the wreath over, bend the wires and push them back into the moss. And exactly the same way as before, we don't want any blunt ends that may scratch your door. Then we bring the wreath back over, straighten up the ribbon once again, and now we're ready to start adding the cones, the oranges and the berries that we've provided for you in the pack. If at this stage you have other decorations that you'd like to add, we've provided extra stub wires for you to do so. So I always start with cones. So exactly the same way, I'm going to poke my cone through the moss, turn the wreath over, hook it back, and then push it back into the moss. Nice and securely. That one, as your door opens and closes, make sure that the cone won't fall out with the ebb and flow of family life. And it too stops it scratching your door and stops it falling out. So there we go. So 1, 2, 3, I'm going to add my cones all the way around. You've got 6 in your pack. You can either add them as a group or space them out as I'm doing. It's entirely up to you, it's your wreath. So find the moss. As you see, I'm finding it a bit tricky to go in. There we go. Pull it, make sure it's going right through the moss, right through the centre. Hook it back in, push it down nice and securely. Turn it over and position the cones. You can then turn them round and position them in any direction you choose. I'm going to put this one over here. Poking it through the moss, pulling it tight, hooking it back over. It's quite a workout on the hands, this one, but we've pre-wired all the components here to make it a little easier for you. There we go. That's it. Next thing that I'm going to add are the orange slices in exactly the same way. So I get the 2 legs of the wire together. I'll show you in more detail in a moment. Pull them through and hook them back. There we go. And then I'll turn them the way that I want them to go. Again, this one to balance, I'm going to go on this side. Take the 2 legs together. Find the moss in between the spruce. Turn the wreath over and hook back any loose wires. Don't worry about the ribbon at this stage, you can always refluff it. Last orange in between the 2. Turn the wreath over, push back in. There we are, I'm just feeling it to make sure there's no loose ends, no loose edges. If there are, I'll take them back and hook them back in, just to clean that up. Now the last things are these lovely berries. I've added a bit of snow spray to these because I think it looks nice. So again, 3. Now the berries are on slightly longer wires so you can spray them out. There we are. And they can fill quite a bit of the wreath up. Second one in there. Okay, let's find my moss. And then hook back on the other side. And then the last one, I'm going to pop in here. So find where the moss is, that's here. Lift the spruce up, push it right through so it comes out the other side, pull it tight, hook it in, and there we go. Spread that out, turn it round. There we are. Respray the ribbon, and there's the completed wreath. In your wreath kit, you will find a length of green string that we've provided to help you hang the wreath up on the door. So I have doubled it over, I'm going to tie a knot, and then I'm going to attach this to the copper frame. Turn the wreath over, find the copper frame that you covered one side in moss earlier, poke the string through, grab it back the other way and pull it tight. Then you can use this to hang it up on the door. There we are, and thank you very much for watching.